Good evening, everyone. You are welcome to this webinar that is organized, by the IBCLC organization as the whole birth is Sub-Saharan African branch. I am Solange Ngo Bama, a medical doctor and a recently certified IBLC. On this conversation this evening, we are having Katinka, who is the coordinator for Sub-Saharan Africa for the IBCLCs. We are having this webinar because for now I'm the lone IBCLC in Central Africa. And with the work that we intend to do in this wonderful breastfeeding month, which is August, the question is, how does someone become an IBLC? Who is it for? What are the paths available? Those are the questions that Katinka is going to be answering this evening for us. And please feel free to ask your questions. If you send in your questions earlier, they are going to be answered at the end of the webinar. Welcome, Katinka, and over to you. Thank you for joining us on this call.
Thank you very much for the warm welcome, Dr. Ngo Bama. My name is Katinka Musavaya. I am an IBCLC and I am joining you today from Harare in Zimbabwe. I am the coordinator for Sub-Saharan Africa for IBLCE. That's the abbreviation for International Board of Lactation Consultant Examiners. And we are the certification body that gives you your title and organizes for the exam. So I would like to go through some of the pathways on how to become a lactation consultant. So firstly, it is about exam eligibility. In order for you to sit for the exam, you have a choice between 3 different pathways. And most of you joining here today are going to be using pathway 1. Pathway 1 is for people who already have work as a nurse or a midwife, or who are medical doctors and who already work with mothers and babies. So what do you need to have in order to be eligible to sit the exam? You have to have 14 health science subjects, if you look here on the left-hand side of the slide. If you have a degree or you are a registered nurse or a midwife, you have already fulfilled those 14 health science subjects. You do not need to add on anything else to that. The second pillar is lactation-specific education. This means that you need to receive a minimum of 95 education hours in total within the 5 years prior to the exam. So in the recent years, 5 of these hours have now got to include counseling, and 2 of these hours must be on the WHO code. And we do not offer this lactation-specific education as IBLCE. It is provided by external educators, and you can easily find providers who will give you this education by Googling things like lactation education. You will find a whole list of providers who can be able to meet that criteria. And it's important before you book yourself in that you actually check that your provider is following the detailed content outline and that it meets your personal learning style. So oftentimes it is online-based learning so that you see how everything is organized. And the third pillar is very important, and that is lactation-specific clinical practice. So this is everything that you are already doing if you're working as a clinician. This is meeting moms and babies. You will meet them antenatally, educating them about breastfeeding. You will meet them at your hospitals, educating them about breastfeeding. Even when you're meeting them at home or in a group setting, all this is lactation-specific clinical practice, and you have to have a minimum of 1,000 hours of clinical practice, again, within the 5 years prior to the time when you apply for the exam. And we have a nice little calculator on the website that I'm going to show you as well. So when you are working as a midwife, for example, you can use the calculator to work out how much clinical practice you have on a day-to-day basis. Are there any questions so far? Okay, great. So let's say you have met all your exam eligibility criteria. What comes next? As the next step, you're going to be applying to sit for the exam. Applications open around 5 to 6 months prior to the exam dates. We run 2 exams every year. We have an April exam where your application starts around November, and we have a September exam where the applications start around May. And you apply through logging in and creating an account through the website, and I'm going to show you this spot on the website just now. And it is really important that you only create one account and that you do not have several accounts, because that makes it really difficult for us to know which account is the current one. Then after you have applied and after the deadline for application is over, you are going to get an authorization email. This authorization email will come to you about 4 to 8 weeks after the deadline has passed. And this email is really, really important. So be sure that you read it very, very carefully and that you are sure that you understand everything that's written there, because this gives you everything that you need to know on how to book for your exam from there. At that point, we are there to help you. So if you get this approval email and it's not very clear what you have to do, you can always email me and I will talk you through all the details. Now we have 2 possibilities to sit for the exam. You can either book through an exam center, or you can do the exam through live remote proctoring, LRP. I had a very brief look this morning on the exam centers, and I think in Cameroon there are no exam centers yet. So you would probably use the live remote proctoring option. And that is when you are using your own office or your own workplace and you set up your computer or your laptop and your environment, and then you can sit for the exam in your own home while the camera is monitoring that you are not using any tools that are not allowed. So it's important when you're choosing this option that you plan for it in advance and you set everything up before taking the exam. Are there any questions so far? Okay. So I'm going to just quickly escape out of my presentation and just show you the website of the IBCLC Commission. This is where you're going to have everything that you need to know. from the detailed content outline. That is your core document if you are interested in seeing what is it that I need to know before I sit the exam. Your detailed content outline has got all of these for you to read. It is also going to show you exactly the deadlines that you're going to have. For example, here on the screen, we have got our September 2025 exam deadlines. You see the mid-May 2025 exams opened.
And Katinka
Hello,
will be back.
everyone. Katrina is probably encountering some technical difficulties. Until now, we've introduced what who an IBLC is, and what kind of exam they have to take to be certified and to recognized by the International Board of Lactation Consultants. The first part that we are exploring is the healthcare or the health professional part. That means that you're a nurse, you're a doctor, you're a midwife, you are, you know, you are in the clinical settings. What you need to have. We talked about, having fulfilling health science courses that you're supposed to fulfill, communication hours, lactation, clinical lactation hours that you are supposed to be able to fulfill to sit for this exam. Catherine Ka was just taking us through the website. So us, in a sense, what one is supposed to know, as in the content. So a fun fact, just before she comes back, I registered for this exam in September, October 2022, after a mentorship at the Healthy Horizon company that does both that supports moms both at home at their workplace. And I was encouraged to take this exam, so I registered for it. The fun fact, right? I took the exam. The first session of the exam I took was in April 2023, and I didn't make it on the first try. So I think that one of the things that we are going to address is context specific lactation advice, right? The way the exam is structured is, it's supposed to be cut across for everybody, but then the realities are not the same for all of us. The way I am in Cameroon is not what Katinga sees in Zimbabwe, is not what Cassie will see in Healthy Horizons in California, right? And so those realities make it that us coming from Cameroon, we may have to learn how to think differently and really put us as lactation professionals in front. The other difficulty that I had was that as a lactation consultant, people are at different places. And a nurse will not be authorized to do the same things like a midwife and as a doctor. So if I'm an IBLC and I'm a doctor, when they give me options to do, I'm thinking like a doctor offering lactation support. So I will not limit myself, right? So those are the kind of difficulties that I encountered. And so, it was an opportunity for me to just relearn a lot of things, to think ethically. Not that I didn't think ethically, but put many things into perspective, especially as a lactation consultant is there to support the family, not influence them to do what you think that is best for them. That's one of the things that I learned on my journey. And I hope that Katinga comes back to highlight. And hello to Dr. Akon, who is in the chat. I don't know if you have any question for us. Will be ready and willing to welcome all of you. Dr. Lonchi, welcome to you. So Dr. Ines says that she wants to know how the clinical lactation hours are evaluated. I think that when Katinka comes back, she will show you there is a calculator that is available by the IBCLC examiner board to tell you how you can evaluate the work that you've been doing. For example, if you work, I don't know, 8 hours a day, and 8 hours a day you consecrate maybe an hour or two to lactation specific, so that's 2 hours, right? So if you work 5 times a week, you do those 2 hours times 5 times a week. And there are 4 weeks in a month. So it's going to be 2 times 5, that's 10 hours times 4, right? So 2 times 5, 10 times 4. So we're going to have 40 hours a week. So to be able to meet the 1,000 hours that are needed, it means that you should have done that for a full year, but you then have to take out things like vacations, maybe you went on holiday and all those, factor all those things, but averagely that's how you think about it. It's not very complicated, especially if something that you do on the go. I hope that I answered your question, Dr. Lonchi. Any other question? I am willing to answer them for you. So, is anybody who is on this call, on this webinar this evening, is anybody interested in, braving the path to become a lactation consultant and joining us to help mothers, both at home, at work, in our community, in our organizations, not only mothers, but the infants that they are nurturing to have a smooth breastfeeding process and preparing them for life, because the child that has received breastfeeding has received one of the best bases for life. I don't know if there's anyone, maybe you could drop a comment for us so that we know where you are at and what is inspiring you, what you have done so far. It could be an amazing opportunity for us to chat. So So there's a question from Dr. Lonchi. The question is about, she's been providing free lactation or private lactation support to mothers for some time now. How does she measure, or how can she prove her experience? How can she attest to her experience I think it's in relation to the previous question about how do you calculate the lactations hours, or how do you evaluate them? Like I said, is not easy, but how much do you provide? You have feedback from your patients? Do you have any documentations? When you see your patients, do you record it? If yes, how often do you do that in a week, in a month, averagely, right? There are some days where you will work more than some other days. There are days where you will be resting, but averagely a day, how much time do you consecrate to this activity? That is going to help you to do an approximation of the work that you do. But I think that Katinga is going to come back to to clarify that, what the board exactly expects of you and how you can demonstrate it, if that should be okay. I think that there's a question that was submitted. Um, as a mother, what are the different steps to follow in order to impact my community in creating awareness in the importance of breastfeeding in a society where mothers attach more importance in how their breast will look after the act of breastfeeding? That's a real concern. And one of the reasons why, one of the myths, I will not really say a myth, but one of the reasons people or women will not like to breastfeed is because they say that it changes their physical appearance, especially the aspect of their breast. So I'm going to address these questions in two ways. The first thing is their concern actually valid? Yes. Why? Now, the breast will experience a change from, when you are born as a girl who grows into a teenager and eventually a woman who has a baby. there are changes. Your breast goes through changes. It's hormonal to finally prepare you for birth, delivery, and nursing. So there is a change in the constitution of your breast throughout all those phases. And even during pregnancy, your breast will also have various changes depending on which phase of your pregnancy you are at. So in the first trimester, it's not going to be like the second trimester, it's not going to be like the third trimester, because if you notice, or if you didn't know, we have colostrum that starts flowing from the 7 months of pregnancy. So there is a change in the breast. Now, that's the first thing I want to say relating to breastfeeding. The other thing, still related to normal aging. So we age. How we were as babies, who became toddlers, who became children, adolescents, young adults, in the 30s, your 40s, your 50s, in your old age, the tissues in your body experience changes. So your breast also do. So the question is, whether you breastfeed or not, your genetics will matter. So there are some people who don't even breastfeed who have their breasts that fall. There are also people who breastfeed and who don't experience that same change in gravity as such. So first, genetics will influence you, but there is a natural process of you know having, growing, having been pregnant, and then breastfeeding. So the question is, if you put the life of your child on the balance, what is more important? Having a healthy baby, or have breast that drop whether you breastfeed or not? So I hope that I've addressed that question. Katinga, welcome back. I have a few questions from enthusiastic IBLC in the making in the chat. One question is, how do they effectively calculate the lactation hours that they have been providing services to people? For someone who is in private practice, how do they demonstrate that without being biased? The second question that came was, how do they demonstrate that? And then, okay, how do they demonstrate that, especially because they have been in private practice? I said you will shed more light on that, and right over back to you.
Great. So, if you are completely in private practice and not working under any institution, then you cannot count those hours. They do not need to be directly supervised, but you have got to work in your capacity as a doctor, in your capacity as a midwife, maybe attached to a hospital, to a clinic, to an institution. And then you are probably going to have a supervisor who can sign off those hours for you. So I've got that calculator that I can show to you. Let me just share my screen once again. Share the screen. So here you can see the spreadsheet that we have, and you would say, for example, hospital work, you would put the name of your supervisor, the email, and then say how many hours of your work day you are working with mothers and babies, and then it will calculate. Was that the gist of the question, Doc?
Yes, I believe that was the question, Katinka. Thank you.
Perfect. Did we have any other questions so far? Had you seen all the way to the end of the presentation?
No, we didn't see the rest of the presentation. If we
At
could
what
go back
point
to
did
it.
I lose connection?
I believe when you were going through the tips.
Oh, right.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to finish off the presentation where it cut out. And the last point I wanted to share with you here is the website, IBCLCcommission.org. And you will get everything that I've presented is always there for you to read up on. You will have all the information on becoming an IBCLC through that orange arrow. We have got everything you need to know on how to take the IBCLC exam, what your deadlines are,
I think we've lost Katinga again. And while she comes back, maybe we'll address one of the questions that was asked to us in the comments. Roka, welcome to you. The question is, in our African settings, is it really possible for moms and families to take expert breastfeeding advice from someone who is not a healthcare professional, even though certifies as a breastfeeding and lactation consultant? The answer is yes. Yes, because we don't need to be lactation consultants to influence people in our community. If you are a mom who has breastfed, you have your own personal journey. You can share. That's been an influencer in a positive way. So now a certification just gives you an extra layer of expertise, but then you have your day-to-day experience that weighs a lot more, and people can relate. It's the same as people asking you are a breastfeeding and lactation consultant, and you don't have children. I've had people ask me those questions. So it's possible. It depends on how we present ourselves and how we influence people around us. Katinga, welcome back. I was trying to answer a question around, there's a question in the chat from a mom who is asking that, are we in an African setting where people trust or people turn to, rely on healthcare professionals? So the question is, you are not a healthcare professional, even though you're an IBLC. Can people really trust you? And my answer to her is, we can influence people. And the fact that you are a mom and you have breastfed, because I know Roka she had challenges with her first baby. By the time she joined Pressure Lactation with us and the coaching, she exclusive breastfed the second and the third child. So she's one of the mothers who has helped us a lot to support the other women in our community, answering questions day to day. I can tell you that under our supervision, she has a lot of lactation hours, if we can count them, because she's done the work. So I think that she's going through a bit of an imposter syndrome to say, hey, I really want to do this thing, but will I be recognized by the community that I want so much to serve? So maybe you can hop in on that a bit, address her question before we move forward, if that's okay with you.
Yes. So at the point when you apply for your exam, you can actually count all the work you've done with lactation for the past 5 years. So it doesn't have to start counting now. All the work you've done for the past 5 years can count towards your 1,000 hours of work. So if she's already done so much work in the community, that's fantastic. She's already set herself up for most of those eligibility criteria. So she can then go ahead and do the lactation specific education, the 95 hours, and just calculate from the last 5 years if her hours are enough, and then she can already start to apply for the exam.
There's a question that you started answering, but somehow because of network you were kicked out. There was someone who asked the question about how does she calculate the hours, given that she's been in private practice. Again, it's someone that I know very well, and I'll tell you that she's a pharmacist by training.
Practice is it?
Yes. No, private practice. Let me put context to her question so that you understand a little bit. She's a pharmacist by training, so she does a lot of how do you call it, counter counseling with patients, right? So in that case, she does education, but she carries her education beyond that first contact with patients to after, because it doesn't remain there. So I think that she's trying to navigate, those two parallels in her mind and see how they fit for her. So maybe that's why
Yes.
she mentioned private practice, but it's not really private practice. She's a pharmacist,
Exactly.
community pharmacist that does work. For example, if you come to buy a breastfeeding pump or something and you meet her, and then she discovers that no, the breastfeeding pump is not a problem. Maybe it's you have a low supply because of something else. She follows you up from there. So maybe you address her question given
Yes.
that context, and thank you.
Yes. So she's probably registered with her professional association in the country. And that already makes sure that she is working in a supervised setting. So she can then count all the direct contact with the breastfeeding moms towards her hours.
I think that that's what
And
she was
again,
asking as a question.
yes,
Thank
exactly.
you.
So she's good to go. She can count all the work that she's been doing towards those hours. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much for answering that question. I think that it was a burning one. We
Yes,
can proceed,
exactly.
and then we'll come back to breastfeeding related questions later. There's a question in the chat about you stop breastfeeding for about 6 months. Is it possible to return? Because the reasons for cessation in the first place was a perceived low milk supply. That's a question in the chat for the mom. We could give a quick answer if you want, or we could come back to it later. What do you think?
Yes, there's always a possibility to come back to breastfeeding. At
Yeah.
any point within the journey, there's a possibility to come back to breastfeeding. The longer it is in the past, the more you're probably going to convince the baby to latch. So we would look at, is the baby still keen to latch? And then we could support her to actually get breastfeeding going again. But it's never too late, and we always encourage to go back to breastfeeding. We love that as an interest.
Thank you very much. I think that that has answered Cynthia Punjab's question. Thank you, Cynthia, for hopping on and being interested in your child and also other children, because we know that the answer is not just going to be for you, but it's going to be for the other children that you'll encounter and the other mothers. Thank you so much, Katinka, for answering that question for us. Please, you can go back to the presentation so that we wrap up and then take any other questions that may arise from what you will say. Thank you. Over to you.
Perfect. So I was just explaining about the website, and that was already the end of the presentation. So what is now left for me to say is that sometimes it can look like it's a big, daunting task. Don't get scared by the website. Don't get scared by any emails that might be coming to you that are long and complicated and really difficult to understand. We are here for you. My email address is africa@iblce.org. You can always pop me an email. If emailing is too tedious, we can have a one-on-one video call. We will explain it to you. Don't let the admin hinder you from becoming an IBCLC. If that is your dream, we are going to make it work for you. We are there for you to help guide you through the process. So email me at any point. That email address comes straight to me, and we are always ready for a chat.
Thank you so much, Katinga, for that open invitation. I wish I had this when I was preparing for this exam in 2022. It would have made a world of difference to me. But I think that my journey has permitted me to, this is one of the reasons why I'm doing this, because I had a lot of difficulties. I had to navigate a lot of things on my own. I don't want the people. The idea is that when we've opened the gates or we've opened the window, we want to open the door very wide for the people who are coming behind us so that we encourage more people. We are having a lot of mothers who are suffering. To be the only IBLC in Central Africa, it's disheartening to be, to have that much work for something that is thriving in English speaking Africa already, sub-Saharan English speaking Africa, we may not have the numbers, but to have 38,000 IBSs and more in the world, and then have one in Central Africa, I mean, that's a lot. It's the gap is wide, is extremely wide, and that's one of the reasons why we are having this webinar, to increase awareness, to simplify the process, to hold the hands of the people who are coming, so that they too can be certified, and we provide better services to mothers and children wherever we find ourselves, especially in the hospitals where they will meet us, but more so in the community like Roca, and even Cynthia, who is on the call, and the other people, Dr. Lunchi, who is on the call, so that at the end of the day, so that 5-10 years from now, we will not be having the same narrative again. One or two people will be counting tens and thousands of people in the different countries and in the different communities, so that we give these children a best start in life. We are not just breastfeeding them, but we are building communities, and we are nourishing futures. Thank you so much for the work that you do. We hope that these collaborations are going to continue. This kind of initiatives are going to multiply themselves, and we'll have a collaboration where we can even see how to source maybe even programs, and say, hey, depending on the cost, what is cost-wise effective for us. Because one of the things too that happens is that when we are looking at those lactation hours in the schools with the incomes that we earn, and we are asking ourselves, can we really afford these trainings, right? Maybe even partnerships. I don't know, I'm thinking big, I'm thinking wide, but those are the kind of reflections that we need to have, so that we propel the work that we are doing ahead. Thank you so much.
Absolute pleasure. And I know the costs can be very daunting and very limiting factor. Please be aware that we have some scholarships available, so you can apply for some scholarships. We have the milk scholarship, for example, that you can apply to. And the lactation community is really, really kind. And if you are putting word out there that you need some textbooks, they are very kind people. They are people who will mentor you from all over the place. We are really supportive as a community, and there's always a way. So approach us, approach each other, and if your passion is there, we will make sure you can sit for this exam and meet your dreams of becoming a lactation consultant, because it is the best job in the world.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think we are having more mom related questions and lactation questions. There's a
Let's take
question in
them.
the chat that says, oh, what about spoiled milk? I think that's a mom, but who is also a very big breastfeeding advocate that I've had the honor to meet, Dr. Akong, the everyday doctor. That's the practice that she leads. She's into information, or she's out to combat misinformation. So she does a lot of health information, the right way, the right tip. So one of the questions that she's asking, there is meat in Cameroon that is very specific to I don't know about elsewhere, but we have this milk about spoiled milk. That milk can get spoiled. So maybe you want to address that as both a mom, as an IBLC, and then we move from there. Thank you.
In Zimbabwe, we don't have that notion very much for colostrum. I think she's referring to colostrum, isn't she?
Well, no, it's not colostrum. There are many things that milk gets spoiled. So it cuts out. It's a big myth. It's like an umbrella term for many things. It says milk is spoiled when a woman has sex with her partner while she's breastfeeding. Milk is spoiled when she goes maybe a day or two without giving milk to the baby. Milk is spoiled if there are many things. She does her hair when the child's umbilical cord is not healed. So spoiling is not one thing, right? Is
Right.
maybe milk is spoiled if she eats a particular meal, a particular food, a particular meat or something. So that milk can get spoiled. It's an umbrella term, but it has a lot of other things within it. I would maybe share an experience with you to make you understand how terrible it is. I'm a doctor by training, right? So we feel that because we are doctors, sometimes, or health professionals, we appreciate things better than other people. But I want to put it to you, when even a doctor becomes a mom, culturally, if she's not prepared, or a nurse or a midwife or a healthcare assistant, the pressure from the community can be so enormous that she forgets her training because of the pressure of the community on her. There's this mom that calls me. She was on a trip for 3-4 days, and she's like, please, when you started talking about breastfeeding, we thought that it was a joke, but forget that I'm a healthcare professional. This is a desperate mom talking to you at this time. I just came back from my trip, and they say I cannot breastfeed my baby. Please tell me that this is a joke. I just want you to reassure me. So they had told her that her milk was spoiled. She couldn't breastfeed.
Right.
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 I think that that's the notion that she's trying to address here. So it has different connotations depending on where you come from in Cameroon. It's different things for different people, but those are the few examples that I have, and maybe you want to address it.
Hmm. We don't have that so much in Zimbabwe, so I've not really encountered that much. But what I've noticed in the work with the communities is that once you educate them, it's eye-opening. So mothers never want anything bad for their babies. Mothers will always want the best for their babies. So if there's a myth out there, the best way to combat is through education, talking with them, showing them examples, showing them outcomes, making sure that they're in a community with other mothers. For example, we have lots of WhatsApp groups. We have some groups where people come together, and then they can see, oh, the mom next to me has also gone to work and come back after 8 hours, and she's breastfeeding her baby. And look, it's now a toddler. And that way we can very easily start to fight those myths, because they come through the generations. And we have got a lot more information nowadays. And once we create that community, then the myths start to become less and less frightening for the moms, because they will act out of fear. They wouldn't be sure if they're harming the baby or not. So it's up to us to actually educate the moms and point it out, and make them talk with each other as well, so that they can tell each other, it's all right, I've been doing it and it's fine. My baby is gaining weight perfectly, and I go to work, or I do my hair, or I do all these things.
Okay, thank you so much in a sense, there's no spoiled milk. The conception of spoiled milk is saying that the body is the breast is something that produces milk naturally on its own, and it produces on demand. It means that if a mom is away for maybe 3-4 days and her child is not breastfeeding, she will not produce as much, right, as she was. But even if she produces, she can pump and maybe store if she can, or pump just enough to relieve herself. But there is no notion of spoiled milk. So the milk is not spoiled no matter the things around, whether she has sex with the father of the child or with someone who is not the father of the child. So there are those things, whether she does her hair, maybe braids while the child's navel is not completely healed, whether she eats a particular meal or she wears a particular dress, or those kind of things, or a particular color of dress, it even gets that bad. So I think that in your education, the everyday doctor, you will have to help us on our journey to attack misinformation linked to breastfeeding, especially in a Cameroonian context. Highlight those things and talk about it. Sex after birth is some kind of a taboo because the mother herself is going through her own changes in her body with the pressure from her partner and from her community. It can be really, really confusing. And sometimes if she has to choose between feeding her baby, well, the small baby, and taking care of the big baby with amidst the pressure, she would probably find the easy way out. And so our responsibility is to give her to allow her to make informed decisions with the fact that she has with her. And so that at the end of the day, we don't prioritize the big baby at the extent of the most vulnerable, the smaller baby. So That's what I want to say in addition to what Katinga has said. I don't know if there's any other question or comment, but I think that that's it. Katinga, any final words, anything that you want to say to us? Maybe remind us of your email address again for those on the call and those who are interested in becoming IBLCs, both for the healthcare professionals and those who are not healthcare professionals. You know, just a reassurance around the cost. Maybe I want you to talk about the reduction in cost that we who are in Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa have when it comes to taking the exams. There's also something like that probably maybe you didn't mention. You should have talked about scholarship, but that even registering for the exam coming from Cameroon or coming from Sub-Saharan Africa, we have a reduction. So it should encourage us to, take the exams. Thank you.
Perfect. Now, I'd like to thank you all for attending. This has been a great opportunity to spread the word and to make the process of becoming a lactation consultant less scary. My email address is africa@iblce.org. And that's how you can reach me at any time. There is no question too small or too big to address. The information that we talked about is all on the website. You will find it there. If there's anything you don't understand, then let me know. I personally was also a first IBCLC in Zimbabwe from a non-medical background. It can all be done. We appreciate you. We want you to really get on with your dreams, and we are here for you to help you get that.
Thank you so much, Katinga. Thank you for having us. Thank you to Healthy Horizon, who, has coordinated all of these, especially Kasi Janakos, who is my mentor right from the Tech Women 2022 for cohort. Thank you so much. And also our community, Precious Lactation. Our role is to educate mothers, and help them on their breastfeeding journey. We are the only clinical support platform that exists in Cameroon at the moment. And the dream that we have is that we continue to grow. We move from one IBLC, to a representation that continues to have a ripple effect. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for interacting, for asking your questions, for being inquisitive. We remain open. If you have questions after this, if you want to be helped, if you want resources, free, paid for, Katinga has said you can get to her on the email that she shared. I'm also available. Reach out to us on LinkedIn, on Facebook with your concerns. We will answer you, and we are here for you. Thank you so much for everything, and God bless you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Any final? Oh yeah, that's the email for Katinga's email for us. So thank you so much, Katinga. Thank you, Healthy Horizon. Thank you, IBLC Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa. We hope that our community is going to grow. And I don't know, Katinga, do we have any association for IBLC? Like, do we actually meet, or is just a formal structural thing? Is it more fluid, more dynamic? Can we meet? And all of that. I don't know if there are any, because one of the things that we can do, maybe refresher courses for ourselves where we invite other people to, so that they can get lactation education. That's one of the ways that we can encourage more people to hop on board. So maybe we think about it in our reflections, in the things that we are thinking about in perspective. But I'm really open to see how, we grow, but also how our IBLC intersects with AI that is growing to help us bridge the gap, that other countries have already, how that can help us where we are now to reach the gap where fewer of us are operating. So that's my interest at the moment, and I'm really looking forward to pursuing it. Thank you so much, everyone, who joined us on this call. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Thank you, thank you.
Have a good night, everyone.
Good night to everyone. Good night to everyone. Good night. Thank you for coming. Thank you.